All right, everybody, welcome back to today's event. After a fantastic matchup in our previous series, there we saw Kennesaw going up against University of Houston, and that was an absolute fiesta of a matchup to say the least. There, Dak, and it was a 2-0 series nonetheless. But getting into the next matchup down below, you guys know the drill. James Madison University going up against Northwood. I'm excited, but first and foremost, there, Dak, how are you doing? And are you as excited as I am for today's festivities? On the note here, Dak, we're going to get into the series very shortly and talking about these two teams first and foremost. James Madison and Northwood. Yes, I want to give you guys an update on their, I guess, history and some of their track records. James Madison coming into this one with a 7-1 record. Northwood sitting at an 8-0. So both two very notable teams, and they've put on quite a show getting down to this point. Of course, this is semifinals. I also want to bring you guys up to speed on what is to come more. And here's a quick look at the overall teams themselves, the players, and who's going to be competing today. We have a fantastic map lineup ahead for us here. Going to be going to Bind, Icebox, and the potential third map of Haven. So yeah, all things said and done, I'm looking forward to it, Dak. And I think you've had a bit of a story about some of these teams in the past as well. So with that here, sorry guys, we're going to deal with a little bit of a tech issue. Nonetheless, I'll bring you guys up to speed. Yeah, so the three series ahead of us going to be Bind, Icebox, and Haven, like I said. And I think we have Dak with us. Dak, give me that mic check.
Hopefully y'all can hear me now. Let me know if I'm still muted because I absolutely shouldn't be. But yeah, cool. All right, awesome. Well, great to be here, Strive. Sorry, buddy. Apologies there.
There we go.
And there we
You're
go. I'm
good.
back in. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Excited to be casting with you. And yeah, both these teams that are really, I mean, pretty hectic road getting here. Of course, it's certainly an endurance test to make it this far in the bracket. And Northwood and James Madison both 8-0 and 7-1 respectively coming into these matchups. I don't have too much history with either of these two teams, but I mean, I would say maybe Northwood is the favorite coming into this one, and we'll see how it pans out as we're going to a best of three that's starting out here on, I believe, Fine.
Yeah, indeed. So Bind's going to be that map number one, and it's a great, comfortable pick to get us going. And kind of happy we're stepping into Bind as the initial going. And proceeding ahead, we're going to for sure see the Icebox as well. The Haven is where I'm really going to leave it up in the air. That three-sided map is always a tale to tell, and getting down to it, and with agent selection coming around the bend. Dak, do you have any thoughts and opinions as your overall compositions, agents, what you're expecting, and kind of setting the tone for this initial matchup to come?
Well, I'm definitely thinking about Icebox for map two because we saw in the previous or previous series Kennesaw versus Houston, there was certainly a bit of a composition diff. One team not running the jet on Icebox instead going for the Reyna. I believe that was Houston. And that really kind of impacted their effectiveness on being able to take territory on the map. So I would certainly expect your jet and chamber or your jet and KO kind of lineups for these. Raise certainly for bind as well. But for Icebox, I'm definitely looking to keep these have jet in mind, and we're going to be jumping into agent select here to see what these teams have to offer.
Indeed, as we get into it, let's see how much of that comes to be. You touched on some of the high notes for me too. It's almost like that Ray staple. It offers so much utility. We're kind of expecting that on Bind, I would say, on both fronts. The question is in terms of the controllers and who's going to be coming for the initiators. That's where some of the changes and I guess the dichotomy between these two teams is going to come to be. Meanwhile, as we're appreciating the agent selection here, some of those hovers looking really good. I do see the initial picks coming out on Bind, and thus far, Ferbs is the only one rocking that raise. I lied. GSB gonna hop in on that agent as well. We got that Sova locking in too. So kind of staple picks here. Nothing too out of the ordinary and not much to write home about. I do like that jet selection, and this is where things might get a little bit interesting of that, double duelist versus the single.
Mm-hmm.
The Sky does offer some of that good flavor and vibe and can work like that to initiator / duelist type agent with those pop flashes and the guiding lights. But again, the adaptation is going to be an interesting factor here, given the utility on both teams ahead of us.
Yeah, on a map like Bind, which is a bit smaller, I'm not entirely worried about one squad not necessarily running the jet. Like, you can still kind of get away with having a bunch of utility, with having flashes and smokes. So, and raise, of course, is a great way to get damage done really quick. And then you have chamber to fall back on if need be. Like, chamber can be a really great entry a lot of the time. Raise can, and I mean, honestly, even Sova is really solid damage-wise to get onto a site. So I don't think the jet is as necessary on Bind as it might be on an Ascent or on an Icebox. And you do have the Sky to work with, so you'll be good on flashes, you'll be good on smokes, you'll be good on general utility. But it remains to be seen how aggressive the entry can be necessarily for this squad. Whereas JMU, of course, they have that in the bag. They have the Raze, they have the Jet, and they have really solid utility plus the chamber if they need to anchor with that. So we'll see. I don't think Jet is necessarily a complete necessity on Bind these days, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, indeed. And as we hop into the good old game here, I want to see how Pistol comes out to be. I like the selections of the chamber, especially on this map. It's become a core concrete pick. The quick rotates gives you some flexibility. Bind in itself, when you think about it from a defensive perspective, is one of the lighter maps to rotate. You have a lot more flexibility going from A to B, B to A, vice versa. You're not running a half marathon to get around there. So having that chamber just makes that rotate time even quicker. And as a whole, it's going to give us a little bit more comfort and, I guess, diversity as to how the defense is going to play it. On the opposing end of the spectrum, much of the same story can be said for the attack side. You can see quick rotates and fluidity is going to work to their favor. Meanwhile, as we get into this first round, bit of an initial poke towards Fountain. The recon dart going down deep into A, or B, sorry, down long, and Trailblazer and such. The question is, how do they commit? And so far, given the lack of presence towards short or hookah area, it looks like it's going to be a hard commit unless they TP. Meanwhile, I lied there. Great opening pick there for Noisia. Gets an opening on that Brimstone, and that's your smoke agent out of the mix, and that could be trouble for the attackers once they get on the post, if they get that far.
They have taken pretty aggressively onto the site, and DiDuraco does have a little bit of a HP chunk down there. We'll see if they can get a little more aggressive outside of the tin can. Meanwhile, Dip's gonna be going around. Oh, and immediately sniping him out there. Nice headshot. Gets a double and continue to move forward. Rip Benji does pick one up with the headhunter. And now it's a 3-on-2 situation. So just like that, Northwood taking control of the site, and they've cleared out almost every angle here. Ferbsa with another one. GSB and Zabumafu both go down. And like that, James Madison gets wiped after what seemed like a pretty solid initial confrontation. Northwood picked it up really well, covered all those angles, and was aggressive when they needed to be to get control of the site.
You said it well yourself. Like, Northwood, having lost that Brimstone out of the rip, I'm like, okay, this is not a comfortable feeling. You must be feeling a little bit worrisome knowing you don't have anything to smoke off, no cover once you get on the post. But what I love the most is once that adaptation came through, they realize they're down the numbers. They don't have the shielding they want. Getting aggressive through elbow, down into back halls there gave them so much benefit. And with that first round in the back pocket and the good old-fashioned Spectre buy round ahead of us now, we'll see how they go ahead and capitalize. Again, James Madison can do some funny business if they so choose to, but the contest is going to be a little bit more different for the side of Northwood, as they're kind of probing around a little bit more lightly here, not committing too much to one side of the map, running a slow and steady default, just feeling out that James Madison defense for the initial few 20 seconds of this round.
Yeah, pretty much a slow but steady default here for Northwood, looking to see who might get that first pick. You can see the spike is now transitioning over towards B site, which is starting to get left over a little bit and left open a bit too much here. You can see DiDuraco is now going to be pushing up a bit aggressively towards Hookah, has the shorty, but the site itself now is not completely open. This Aldron's not going to find much until that Sova starts to peek their head out, and the Rays will be joining them from back site. Drakius now hanging out in showers here. Now they're going to feel the vacuum as A has started to be completely opened up here. But it looks like the execute's going to happen on B site.
So far, you'd think so, but after a bit of a bait and switch and some initial positioning from Drakius there, already has shower control with the guiding light pop flashing on out. They're going through. TP has been hit, and they're running right onto site. So for the side of James Madison, they're going to have to play the hard retake. Close proximity joust there with the shorty. Zabumafu makes a quick 1 and 2 dash for Drakius, and that's a great initial opening. Nonetheless, the rest of the team now here is joining the party. Dip is going to absolutely shock dart Zabumafu in close proximity. Meanwhile, holding the flank, Benji and Co. Dip contesting further into back site. Ali is just locking you, and you can see just how commanding Northwood has been. Once they get on site, they make their presence known, and they have no disagreements of getting backside control. And Dak, on any given map, and I'd say Bind more than others, getting backside control, particularly on B, but also on A, is critical. Planning front trunk and walking away to get a coffee is the polar opposite of what you want to accomplish. So really well done from Northwood, but this is the all-important round 3 buy coming out from James Madison now.
Yeah, they baited me pretty hard there. So it's one of those fakes where you think, oh, they might not just commit it, might throw some utility through the teleporter and not really go for it. But yeah, it was pretty solid. I mean, Drakius had the info to know, like, all right, there's really no one on this site. We could totally go for it. And now here we go. Round 3, absolutely the critical round here. And Ferbsa almost gets the pick there. Has to fall back and trying not to get too overcommitted. Ali as well gets pushed back there from the paint grenades. And those shells are certainly going to give them a little bit of time to think about. But they're going really aggressive all the way in. The Hunter's Fury also comes out from Dip just to try to cut off some of the site as the spike will go down. Indeed, it does. And JSB is going to get punished for peeking out through U-Haul here. Ray as well also getting picked from behind. and now it's a scramble on the site. But look at that again. Yeah, you see the raise all the way deep back sight, and that's huge to get rid of Zubumafu.
You can see just how much that offers. Like backside control is a whole different energy when you're really situated. You have your angles covered. Heaven smoked out in this case here. An attempt there from Sova. Noise trying to get out, but Ferbsa is absolutely locking the back of sight down with that Spectre. Now Duraco having a battle against two with the double peak, and look how Northwood comes out as a dynamic duo. The buddy system, rarely fails, but in this case, Northwood pulled together that third round, and James Madison absolutely shut out of their gun round. So for them, it's back to the drawing board financially and in terms of weaponry. But again, it's still early on here at DAC, but so far Northwood's showing has been absolutely fantastic.
Definitely don't need that jet, right? Like they've been using those shock darts to really solid full effect. Like anyone who's taking an aggressive stance on defense is getting hit by the paint shells. They're getting hit by shock darts. They're getting smoked out, otherwise they're getting flashed. So there really isn't a need to be like literally like super aggressive with a dash in. They're kind of even face checking on all these corners too. Northwood feeling a lot of confidence in these aim battles here, and certainly why not? Already with a full like gun round, they've been able to show their excellence there. And now Northwood going to start to pile it on. They're up 3-0. They have a lot to work with here, and they're getting close to some of these ults as well. If not already potentially being able to use them. We'll see how this pans out.
Ooh, after a spam fest right down long, it's Benji able to clean up the mess onto Duraco. That is Chamber out of the equation. Meanwhile, Elbow again smoked out, and just the decisiveness of getting on site, smoking it. You can see Ray there, kind of pinned in an unfortunate situation. Once that smoke's drop is going to be fully exposed. Bit of a guiding light. Pop flash goes in, and Ali absolutely fearless. Monster getting into Elbow with a bit of an attempt to continue the siege and the duos and the trades. It's light work for Northwood. Sorry, Dak. I mean, it's a rinse and repeat at this point. They're not really feeling too worried, considering they're up against an immensely light eye from the side of James Madison. But I think now that the economy's found its footing one more time, the attempt at a buy comes through, and I want to see how Northwood kind of takes the backseat again and adapts to that.
James Madison certainly, I mean, yeah, I mean, on that round you can't really control the pace of the round, but they're almost a bit too hesitant at times, right? They're allowing Northwood to take almost every angle once they're on the site. They're not really forcing any kind of errors out of Northwood. They're allowing them to kind of have free reign of the site and then just take a retake from there. There's the tour de force, and Benji overcomes Zubumafu pretty quickly, who I believe might have even bought an op in that scenario. Somebody from JMU had bought an op and has gone half armor, so that's already a big loss. JSB does get the return on Ferbsy. Benji again with another one. Here comes the Hunter's Fury. That's going to be thrown out there, and will find Drakius. So it's a 2-on-2 situation here, but you can see Ray is really separated from the rest of their team. It's going to be absolutely incredibly difficult to get out of this situation. Dip does get hit a little bit there, but will not be able to hit the floor from Rai. Duraco, they're the one who has the op and takes out Benji, but that spike will go down.
Orbital strike onto Duraco as well, and goes back to safety, so nothing too crazy. A huge delay for James Madison on that rotate. They played a very slow CT spawn shift over. Ali gets the pick onto Noizeraf, and Duraco with that up. You can see just how patient and diligent Northwood is. They don't want to stick their nose out beyond anywhere further than they need to. Duraco reading the room nicely, says, you know what, this isn't my cup of tea. I'm sitting on a very expensive investment and not a lot of knowledge as to who is where and when they're going to swing out, having to deal with two angles. Backs away towards spawn is going to save that op, but saving is only half the problem here at this point. Northwood pulled together a fifth, and if my math is semi-decent here, Dak, James Madison going to be a bit of a financial pinch once again.
Yeah, they're playing that cycle, right? Like they're going for as big of a buy as they can to get themselves back into the game. They're losing that investment. They're forced to eco the next round, and then the cycle continues, rinse and repeat. And for Northwood, of course, they're going to take that all day. With 5 unanswered rounds, why not? They're starting to stack it up, but JMU are going to try to do it as much as they can with this hero rifle, which really, again, puts them in a dire situation, because if they lose this round, then their buys are going to be off. They might have to eco another round after this, so that's really going to set them back if they can't make this work absolutely here. And we'll see how this, you can see they're doing a lot more of a passive hold. They don't have anyone in showers. They don't have someone pushed up in hookah. And they have a really high push up on B site, but there's no one there. Instead, Ferbsa finds JSB with the showstopper first, and that's their cue to walk in.
I mean, Northwood has negative chill, to be quite frank with you. You can see the showstopper and just the decision-making to get on site. It's clean. Benji, Drakius, one apiece, and it's an absolute mo-fest here. taking out James Madison. You can see Ferbsa has U control, and hovering over above in the side play, you can see there's nothing else really to write about here, as James Madison just pinned in unfortunate positions. DiDoraco with that same up from the previous round now has to make an attempt to get out against 4 members of Northwood this time. Nice attempt from Verbsa, but gets caught off guard there as he's hopping across. So the save attempt here is going to be the best case scenario for DiDoraco, going away, watching the back end, the front, and they have bodies to spare. So Northwood here on the hunt as well to get this op from the side of Chamber off. A bit of a poke, and oh boy, this might be trouble for DiDoraco. He's getting pinched around the bend. Swing and a miss there. Dip makes it happen, and that $4,700 is now completely down the drain. So really good for Northwood, 6-0, and again, just really working that economy.
Probably one of the hardest maps here to try to actually be effectively saving that one gun. It's just such a small amount of territory to run and chase and hunt for your opposing team. So like they're eventually going to find you with so much time on the clock, especially considering you had hung around to try and get a kill here and there, which might have just been ill-advised because the other team has so much money, right? Like Northwood has so much money. There's no real need to try to get some last minute kills, some exit frags, because they're going to rebuy easily. And now you can see the JMU buy is off. There's only 4 rifles that have a pistol otherwise. They're going to use the tour de force to get that out, but that's just an ultimate burn they have to do because their economy is now in shambles and it's really otherwise shifted. So see the ult's starting to come out. They have the Trailblazers popping it. Subumafu falls back away from the sky smokes. Drakius, though, on the other side of that, completely running in. Subumafu trying to use the dash to get away, but Ali chases him down. Those Vandal shots will put him down for the count. Now it's a 5-on-3 situation. And once again, Northwood has no... I mean, these two teams are playing separate games here, right? Like, Northwood's trying to win, JMU's trying not to lose. And you can see that in just how they're carrying themselves on the map. Northwood knows exactly what angles they want to take immediately. They're going right towards them, beelining towards those angles. And JMU is trying to kind of playing a bit too reactionary and doesn't seem to have as stalwart of a game plan in mind.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it, Dak. And you got to look at the overall, I guess, macro of the game. Putting the micro side of the round around us to what's happening, it's the macro comes down to JMU just can't find any kind of footing no matter where they go, right? They play passive, they get stomped on. They try and get aggressive at long B, they get shot out. So they're not able to make any one of the two types of play styles work. The retake isn't working. We've seen that fail multiple times on A, and that ties into Northwood's ability to get site control. So at last, the good old timeout comes out with a couple rounds left in this half for JMU. I know we've touched on some of the key points throughout this conversation between you and I, Dak, but is there anything that you can specifically say that JMU can do to kind of spice things up, or one differentiating agent that needs to perhaps make a play to get this, get a couple rounds on their back and give them some comfort before we get into that second half?
It might be a bit difficult with this comp because really you only have Raze and Sova to do it, but try to milk some of the utility from Northwood before they push. Like try to force that utility out so Northwood doesn't have as much to play with. But you can really only do that so much with Sova and Raze to an extent. Like Jet can't really force utility as much as you would like. Brimstone really can't as either. And Chamber really is a very self-sufficient and doesn't necessarily try to force utility out from the other team either. So that might come down to a composition thing where they just don't have a lot of characters that are, can force the attackers to burn utility before they go onto the site. And so Northwood is able to get onto these sites and still have a lot to play with. Like they can take angles and then they can burn the utility, or they really have to rely on smokes to get onto these sites. And I would like to see if JMU could maybe figure out a way to have Northwood burn their resources before they get onto a site to at least make it a fairer fight once the spike goes down.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on top of that. Minus burning the resources, or in addition, actually, it's about maybe a bit of an aggressive push, but a push that you can duo up and get a trade at least, a 1-for-1, and get some intel and site control or map control specifically, like a double push showers or a double push short. But the adaptation from Northwood is very interesting. The moment they put their foot down and they show that they're playing a certain, in air quotes, play style of aggression, they immediately turn the tempo down 50 notches, like turn that volume right to 1, and they just go slow and steady. And that leaves JMU in a kind of a guessing game, as they don't know, all right, do we push? No, probably not, because we can't hear a single thing. And if we walk into a crosshair, they're going to be there in 2s or 3s to take us out. So you can see in this case, Northwood's playing that slow, steady default, kind of probing around towards short showers and towards middle now. But again, it's a very interesting situation for James Madison. Is Rai makes an attempt to peek out, but that gets shut down quickly out of you. Drakeus gets a one piece as well, and very quickly with 50 seconds plus, nice decision-making attempt there from DiDoraco, but Ali's got the crosshair on lock, very quickly shutting them down, and James Madison, 28 shades of dismantle now as the whole attacker squad gonna hop right into B, go for that spike plant. Everything is smoked off that you could want. It's basically a free site at this point.
Yeah, and none of that utility burning we're kind of hoping for there. I mean, you're not going to get them to burn utility by just face checking corners and peeking, right? Like, I feel like too often I'm seeing JMU Sova like in the all the way in spawn, like transitioning between sites. Like, get your Sova out there, try to owl drone, try to throw out a shock dart, try to get something going, and maybe do something to stop the initial push. Because it doesn't seem like there's any resistance coming from JMU in terms of stopping Northwood from getting onto a site. They're waiting for that initial pick. Northwood gets it, and then they push out. There's, we're not seeing like raised paint shells coming out. We're not seeing the boom bots really doing much. We're not seeing shock darts or recon darts or anything popping out from the JMU side. And it feels like, at the same time they're being reactionary, but they're also being too passive. And yeah, I would like to see those double peaks maybe playing a bit more aggressively. It's a shame that when JMU did double peak a little bit towards B long a couple rounds ago, that Northwood wasn't there entirely, so maybe they were dissuaded from doing it anymore. But if you're going to be aggressive, at least make it harder for the other team to land those shots. Send 2 or 3 bodies if you can, instead of just trading off one-on-ones.
It's kind of funny. Like, I feel like I'm having an internal conflict with myself when I talk about it, right? I say, okay, JMU should be a bit more passive and, try, like you said, or even, piggyback on your point, bet at utility. They do that, but then Northwood plays it so slow, and it's almost uncomfortable when you're just sitting there and the timer hits 48 seconds or 45, 40 seconds. Like, all right, where are they going? And James Madison's playing the reactive game. So say, I'm going to do a jiggle peek towards U-Haul. They do it and they fall. And really quickly, this time, GSP is the one on the board first against Ferbsa. So that's a duelist out of the equation. Benji equalizes. But again, with 55 on the clock and Northwood's mobility, they're slowly shifting that focus towards the B site here, getting ready to flex over. And we'll see how they can make it out. Again, unnecessary peek out of long, and Ali is there, just crosshair placement on point, gets that pick, and you can see just how quickly they're going to go ahead and collapse. What I do like, though, from JMU is they've chosen to not play the retake game. The double posted up onto B, but why does my sticky feeling tells me Northwood might pop the TP? No, they don't. Rai gets the pick out of back sight. Benji on the board for the follow-up here, coming out there. Unfortunate situation for this Brimstone, completely pinned in the back of sight, trying to deal with some verticality.
Oh, no.
There's not enough bullets in the chamber. Oh my god, Dak. It'd be like that sometimes now with DiDoraco coming out of hookah in the 1 versus 3.
Yeah, this is a hero moment here. If they need a miracle, it's right now. DiDoraco does find Drakeus, but Benji is kind of splitting the difference here on left side. They're actually going to swing both at the same time. Exactly what you need to do, making it possible to get both of them down. And Dip will be the last player standing. It is 9 unanswered rounds by Northwood. JMU is still not able to figure things out here. This is looking pretty rough, and they are having another rough bye here. We're getting close to this map even being over, but also the first half being over. And Northwood is in complete command. JMU, I mean, I'm seeing a lot of like agent transitioning too, right? Like they don't seem to be comfortable on either site in terms of like who they placed on it. So you're constantly seeing players going back and forth, back and forth. Should I be here? Should I be there? And by that point, Northwood's already on the site. They've already figured themselves out, and JMU still, swapping and shifting players from one site to another. So it's hard for them to actually really hold when that push eventually comes.
Maybe it's not necessarily, not being comfortable per se. Ooh, the Trailblazer catches Rai. Unfortunate playing the tight angle. To piggyback, as we're kind of getting a rinse and repeat one more time with the Northwood textbook A-take. Spike planted, and DiDoraco and U-Haul now trying to maneuver around. I don't think it's necessarily, uncertainty. It's just they're trying to adapt. It might be too late in the game to do that, but they're flexing agents saying, okay, let me try playing A. Let me see what I can do. And they're shifting the roles, but it's, it feels like no matter what they do, it's not taken. You're planting the seeds, and no matter how much effort you're putting in, it's just not growing and flourishing. And you can see in this situation now, Dip has the flank on lock. 2 members about to cross crosshairs. They don't hard clear the corner with the 1 and the 2. Dip is basically playing whack-a-mole at this point. Wipes up the flank, and with that, the 10th and round here going to Northwood, and that's double digits for them. James Madison, all things aside, we need these 1 or 2 more rounds, Dak. Like, they're going to be in such an uncomfortable place at the half switch where it's going to be a 12-round flawless battle to get back on top. And given Northwood's showing initially here, it's a hill to climb. Not saying it's not a thing that can happen, but I just need to see a little bit more cushion before we switch it up.
And it's surprising that we haven't really seen Zabumafu on the op very often, right? Like, you would think, like, okay, let's put the Jet on the op. that's something we don't have to really commit too much more, you know, in terms of like getting picks for. Like the Jet can get out of those situations easily. It almost seems like the changer we're having the op is a bit redundant at times, as you know they're eventually going to get the tour de force too. So maybe that might be a change up. They could potentially put that adaptation in. Here comes the Hunter's Fury. Didorako though, all right, definitely making it worthwhile and finds Drakius, and that kill will put them one ult charge away from getting their own tour de force for the next round if they need it. It's not a bad start here for JMU, even though Didorako did take a little bit of shots there, and looks like will be opposing tour de force comes out from Rip Benji to try to even the odds a little bit here.
You know, with that opening pick, I can understand why JMU is not sending rotates off of B and they're let's say posted up still, kind of playing that, you know, drop area one aggressive in hookah. Benji gets the pick onto Didorako, so that's that opening one out of the equation. Benji though, straight up sharpshooting with that tour de force. Ferbsa gets the one, and very quickly it feels like when the dominoes start to tip here, Dak, they go full force. Like we dropped 500 dominoes in a blink of an eye, and with that, spikes planted yet again. James Madison now having played that B roll and, you know, heavy anchoring, are coming through CT, but it's a little bit too late as they have no intel, no site control, and in a 2v5 going to be a mega situation to deal with. But let's see if they can pull a couple guns off their backs. Not like it matters at this point, considering Northwood's economy is pretty much stacked to the top here.
Ray's going to put down some Sky smokes, and there is a showstopper for GSB if they do want to use it, but I mean, time's already against them. Ferbsa does find Ray, and JSB will trade out, finds Benji, gets another one on Ferbsa. Probably not worth using at this point. Time is not on their side, but GSB, wow. All right, at least getting a little bit of a highlight there for their squad. Even if they don't take away the round, GSB does get 4 in a row. Some well-placed shots, taking down Northwood one by one, and they will still maintain that ult for the last one.
Yeah, we're gonna hold steady here, brace ourselves for the final round, and I'm just at this point, I really need a JMU one on the board. It seems like Dak, come on, at this point, one is
desperate.
Yeah, James Madison, I'm hoping for the best here. You know, maybe defense is not their strong point, but let's see when the half switch comes. I'm grateful to say that at least they're ending off on a semi-high note. We do have some buys across the board. No one's down to the, you know, $1,000 prize pot, funds to buy in. So we have some judges and whatever else we can offer, playing close proximity here. Oh my goodness me. Just when Didorako says, I have a tour de force and I'm going to make an attempt to shut something down, swings and gets completely dome pieced. And you can see really quickly, it's the Ferbsa aggression. The orbital strike goes out, bullies them out of elbow, but actually it works out favorably. Ali and Ferbsa one apiece very quickly, brings us back to the 3 versus 2 now. GSB and Teleporter. Seekers comes out, and that's going to reveal the Raze's position. Spike goes down here. Let's see how GSB can play this hookah and hopefully get back into sight to do a little something. Showstopper, nice job, and that is stunning. Gets the 2, and we're back to that 2v1. This could be that James Madison round that we've been desperately seeking.
There it is,
almost. We got it. So after a showstopper and a half and some critical hookah control, we do get the first for JMU, and let's see half switch here, Dak, what's going to come to be.
Finally getting one. Great patience there by Rai, by the way. Like, holding as long as they possibly can back in spawn, which on probably most rounds really wasn't working out too well for them. You could tell that Dip was really concerned about who was eventually going to push from back site, and that was more than enough of a distraction here for GSB to capitalize on that, get the showstopper kills in hookah, and then throw out the paint shells to really get them out of cubbies. So it worked out in the end. That time was finally on JMU's side there. Eventually they had the numbers advantage as well, and they will get on the board after 11 unanswered rounds by Northwood. They do finally have an answer. And now it's up to JMU. Maybe they're a second half team. Certainly Bind can favor a lot of teams, you know, attack wise for sure. But they don't have, again, they don't have that I guess that X factor that they've been looking for yet, but let's see if maybe they found it in the second half.
I mean, the X factor could be brewing for all we know here. It took 12 rounds to brew, but she's steeped and fully set here. JMU posted up. They're playing a bit of a slow and steady on default. A very stark contrast to how Northwood played their pistols initially. They're round 1 and 2. You can see the aggression coming out from Northwood towards hookah now. GSB is kind of spotting that. Keeping an eye on what's coming. The Trailblazer comes, and Dip and Drakius fearlessly going to go for the swing out. They actually do tickle GSB down to 50 hit points, and that's good info on its own. And I like how disciplined they are. They immediately fall back to sight, knowing very well they've done some good damage, got a little bit of a feel for what's happening at mid, and they're going to go ahead and wait with a minute plus left on the clock before they make a real move here.
And Northwood is just ready and waiting. They've completely spread out on the map. I like on this, like the B hold, they're all like situated on in elbow just in case that push comes out in B to make it as if JMU have no idea they're there. But it's gonna be coming out on A. They're gonna dash right in, and Rip Benji has the headhunter ready and waiting. Zabumafu goes down. The smokes come out. The GSB has also hit the ground, as has Rocco. And at this point, it is going to be almost impossible. Oh, actually, Noisa with a huge two-piece there, at least keeping things somewhat possible now for JMU as they're going to transition all the way back over to B site. Northwood going to give chase. We'll see if the spike gets down in time, but Northwood, I mean, they're taking the time to clear it smart enough, and now they have 10 seconds left, and JMU and Northwood is on the other side of the smoke, and Rai gets one, Rai gets two! The headshot comes through on this third one, but not the kill. And now a one-on-one situation.
Noise playing up top on container here. You can see migration towards elbow. Recon dart, that's going to be good. Completely pings out the opposing chamber. Now Benji in a very low HP situation, now down to negligible amounts, and you can see Noise has no chill whatsoever. Says clean headshot for me. I know you're lit, but I'll make sure it counts now. That second round of James Madison, it was close. The overall vibe was looking really strong with them on that A take. I do like how they went for the double smoke as well, blocking off back sight to ensure that they had some sort of protection. But of course, Benji out of heaven just clapping faces makes smokes kind of null and void. But alas, this is their chance at the gun round, the round 2 by delivering some of the Northwood medicine right back to them. Now, let's see if they can pull it through. Like you said, man, this is Haven, or sorry, this is Bind. Anything can go any which way, and it could just be a side diff nonetheless. But let's just calm down, take it easy, and see what they can do with some Spectres in their hands here.
I know there's a 9-3 curse. We'll see if there's an 11-1 curse into this map. Ali and Noizerov going to be swapping kills here. Rip Benji also gets on the board, but then Rocco gets the better of them. Able to play aggressively with that Spectre and does so. Peeks all the way out. And now again, we have the transition back over towards A site. Looks like JMU might commit. They still have the jet, but the jet has the spike in hand. Has to be careful not to die too far out here. It's actually going to be the raise that goes for the entry. Distracts just long enough. Trades kills out again. Now it's Dip who's looking for some nice frenzy shots and finds them. Takes out Zabumafu, had the Marshal. Now it's just Rocco, who's already done some damage with the Spectre. Down to 82 HP, 14 armor. Finds Dip from behind. And then, wow, the spray transfer. Drakeus, not enough time to overcome that clutch. Rocco, very, very significant play there. Keep things going for JMU.
Yeah, really good job. And I think what kind of scared me a little bit is when Drakeus was kind of lurking towards B, playing that anchor and kind of late rotating. I'm like, oh boy, this is gonna be a mission. But showed up to the party on time, relatively, dropped the Trailblazer, and was not able to get the critical info. And that little, do-si-do towards middle sight there, I think was what really sealed the deal. And that spray transfer too. Kind of unfortunate that they didn't swing out together, or at least I could have seen maybe a faster reaction from Drakeus coming out of spawn to trade it out. But the Spectre reigns supreme, and the firepower that they earned so rightfully in round number 1 brings them that third to their name. Dip and Co here posted up. The Owl Drone going out from long. A nice pop flash coming out. The guiding light. It's good. Drakeus actually comes out to support, and I love the attempt and, I guess, team morale to keep it alive and well. But so far, a back and forth 1-for-1 joust here at Northwood, down to 4 members and a very low HP Sova. JMU going to go ahead and capitalize on that B take as well with that spike.
Yeah, this is looking like a lot more of a confident side here for JMU for sure. They've only lost the chamber, and Northwood is even in terms of agents, but their Sova is super chunked low here, so won't be able to play there too much. Ali waiting, but it's Rip Benji who goes down. JSB gets traded out. Zabumafu as well. Ali gets on the board for them, and Ray seeing love that. Ali just playing mind games with Ray, showing their barrel and not committing until it really counts. Now it's Noizeraf by themselves, finds Ali. That spike starting to tick down. That Sova dip is so low, but so is Noizeraf. They only have 51 HP. Shock darts are whiffing, and with the shot through the smoke, Noizeraf just firing blindly through the dark and finding pay dirt. That spike will go off, but at that point, JMU picks up another round, keeping it going. It's 4 rounds in a row for them now in the second half.
This is clean stuff. And, talking about some of the conversations about utility that you brought up in the previous half, like you have to look at that clutch situation that Noizeraf was in, and having that much utility conserved, including that recon dart that was, I would say there was probably one used earlier that we didn't catch, but for it to be held for such a long time to play the post, it could have been done differently. Like if you drop that recon dart, you lose all sights of what's happening. So again, JMU really utilizing their kit to their advantage, albeit it's getting down to the wire, making me low-key uncomfortable. And meanwhile, it's a rinse and repeat of that round 3. Hunter's Fury coming out, sending it way back, gets a tickle onto Ali, and that's all they're going to earn from this. Meanwhile, still, we do have that tour de force on Northwood's side activated. JMU and Co. dashing right on through, blocking off the top of truck, and this is going to be an absolute party towards U-Haul for the 1 and Ferbsa for the 2. So the shorties come out, that mild investment is able to get a lot off the sides of JMU now as Drakis is on the flank. Ferbsa in a very uncomfortable position, but finds comfort onto GSB's dome. And with that 4v2, I lied, make that one. Benji gonna go ahead and tour de force us right to the finish line for that match point.
That flank was critical. That really started to send JMU scrambling, and they were already separated, having 1 player in lamps, 2 players in showers, and once they realized, all right, now there's another theater of war we have to deal with coming from behind, that really kind of sent them in a bit of a frenzy. And Northwood certainly taking advantage, smelling the blood in the water, and striking when the iron was hot. That was a great way to cut off the map. And those shorty kills, too, were devastating. Such low investment. You get some great kills in an aggressive stance. And now Northwood on match point here. Game point, map point, whatever you want to call it.
Let's play.
12-4, and it looks like... I don't know if JMU wants to play at this point, but they're playing a lot more confidence, so we'll see if they're going to retaliate.
Confidence is key, and with that note, let's see. Like you said yourself, James Madison are on that prowl once again. I see, Northwood are not hesitant to play their play style, right? You can see towards Long B, time in, time out. They're willing to swing. They're posted up, ready for the pop flash, and that Sky duo works super well. And Dip goes for a bit of a look and says, "No, I'm not really too keen on it. We don't have much intel or comfort." As Hookah's also very much under the radar. So far, so good in terms of smokes blocking the vision. And the question is, how do they capitalize? Throwing the paint shells early, and with the smoke blocking Hookah, they're not going to even utilize that to get backside control. It's still 50 seconds on the clock here, and they're still looking for a bit of a headpiece for Zabumafu, but in the opposing area code, Ferbsa gets a nice connection onto D. Dorako, and very quickly the attack side thins further.
This almost crawled to a halt now here. Well, JMU wants to commit on site, but you can see, yeah, there's Northwood using that utility. Try and shake things up a little bit before the entry comes out, as Zabumafu has the Blade Storm ready to go and looking for someone to play contact to get something. Finally, going to cut off the site, puts down the Cloud Burst, jumps in, Noiserap takes advantage, gets some kills with Drakius, responds for 2 until GSB puts down Dip. With that orbital strike, Ali will find Zaboomfu, who had already committed and used their dash. And then, wow, GSB looking through the eyes of danger there, knows the showstopper is out, still fights back anyway, you have to. And Northwood will take it 13-4.
I mean, let's talk about this matchup as a whole, Dak. I want to hear your insight on it. I'll give you mine first and kind of, give you my feel as to we get into map number 2 and what I'm expecting some changes from JMU here. First of all, Northwood's presence across the fronts and their tempo control was bar none clean. Like this map adaptation wise, we talked about it in pregame, is a little bit, a little touchy, right? You have a lot of movement towards the attack side that you can quickly shift focus, right? You're towards short A, a quick migration to mid, and you're in hookah. And vice versa on the defense, it's much of the same. The only thing that I'll say is I felt like there was just a spark more of control over that tempo for the side of Northwood that JMU could not adapt to. I mean, couple that with the shots, it was just a stomp on regardless of, A or B, and the site control they had, getting way back into A and way back onto B, before even planting the spike. It worked out super well.
Absolutely. I would say there are a lot of things that contributed to that loss for JMU. I mean, like you were saying earlier in the rounds, like it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Play too passively, you're going to get punished for it. Playing too aggressively, get punished for it. And trying to find that balance on defense, which you can clearly see Northwood was so comfortable on the attack. It's hard to find that adaptation mid-game and figure out where you really need to be. I definitely like the differences we saw in attack though. Like they had a little bit stronger utility usage. They seem to have more of a game plan going onto the sites and taking angles and taking fights when they needed to. But overall, Northwood, I think a lot of times definitely had aim diff. They certainly able to hold on to resources as you were talking about a lot longer and have that utility when they needed it in post plant situations and late game one-on-ones. Those are really critical moments that you want to have that shock dart or you want to have that all ready to go. And Northwood was, mostly in that position a lot more of the time.
Yeah, indeed. And talking about critical moments, and the most critical moments, you guys want to make sure you have the most fantastic FPS and PC performance. Take this time to give a massive shout out to AMD for sponsoring this event, guys. It's performance to rule your game and rule the league. NACE is so proud to have AMD as a partner, as their official graphics card partner in that, with the AMD RX 6000 series cards. You guys have the most fantastic RDNA 2 technology there at your fingertips. And with that, guys, please, we thank you so much for supporting us, AMD. And if you guys are interested in picking up an AMD card or learning more, AMD.com is your place to go. Map number 2 is coming up momentarily. We're going to be changing some tempo and going to the frigid land of Icebox. So don't go too far. Off to a really quick break.
Welcome back, everybody, to the NACE Starleague Valorant Spring Finals. I'm Dax, still here with my man Strive as we go to our second map, which will be Icebox between Northwood University and JMU. Strive, we saw a map that was certainly Northwood favored. Now going to Icebox, any expectations, anything to look for?
Yeah, I'm going to be patient here and kind of take a step back. So for those that maybe we should have brought this bit of information ahead of time. So the bind pick was a Northwood selection. Now we're going to a JMU selection onto Icebox. So let's see how the adaptation comes through. Northwood's going to be occupying that defensive side of the map to start off. So again, they had an amazing attack end. Don't get me wrong; they really showed their true stripes there on bind. But I want to see how the Icebox comes to be as we hop into the agent selection here and what composition they bring. You touched on some key points regarding the baiting of utility in the previous map and also the agents that they picked. What are your flavors and thoughts as we get into this one, and what's the adaptation going to have to be for them to come back on top?
Oof. Well, Icebox certainly a map where definitely takes different flavors of composition. Certainly teams still
Great.
favoring, your Vipers, Sages, of course. Sage definitely coming back into vogue on this map for sure. And I'm glad that I'm seeing a Jet on both sides for this because it's still something you want to have to get onto the site, get that spike down quickly, and then all right, we've controlled the tempo. Let's see what we can do on the post plan. The Reyna is something that we've been seeing on Icebox, at least through the broadcast so far, and I don't believe it worked out too well for Houston, but seems like Northwood has certainly something different to say here. I would say that I think this makes sense for Northwood because they've controlled the game so much, and Jet plus Reyna plus Chamber allows them to control the map even more so. So I'm curious to see how they'll stack up against like JMU Sage, for example, where you can immediately cut off the site. You can do start to create angles that otherwise might not be there, and that's where okay, Northwood has to start to burn some utility and burn some map control in order to overcome that. So we'll see if they can do that. Viper on both sides as well makes sense. The Sova on both sides as well makes sense. So we'll see. I think this might be a solid adaptation for JMU, but Northwood just as well making the adaptations necessary depending on the map.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the initial rounds. And for me, I want to talk about one specific agent, which kind of stands out as the X factor. It's that Reyna.
Mhm.
In previous Icebox matchups, for me, it's always been that Reyna that can offer the moments of light in bleak times and can do such a great job of clearing out space, getting aggressive, getting intel in and out with that dismiss. And it's kind of like that everlasting agent in that ultimate form of that Empress. So I'm just going to be patient and see how the composition comes out to be. Yeah, you're right on the one point, which is that Sage difference. And if used correctly in an aggressive and passive state, can offer chances to get opening picks, but also to play retakes and wall off the spike and everything else. So getting into this round one, you can see the initial probe. I mean, Ferbsa has no patience whatsoever getting aggressive. D Duraco is ready down below to catch that Reyna off guard, and that's your duelist out of the equation. We still got that Jet on the side of Northwood to make something happen. So James Madison on that opening pick, going to go ahead and capitalize and proceed further through towards this A site. Rotates are here as well, though, Dax. So the defense is ready and primed.
Yeah, this is such a hard angle for Dip to take here, and they're going to get completely overwhelmed as everyone from JMU is pushing at the exact same time. Drake is, though, some nice shots with the Ghost, finds Merce, Sage out of the play. Even though the wall's already gone down, they have as well Benji with a Headhunter and Ali with the Ghost, finding two more. Just like that, Northwood has completely retaken this. JMU's push maybe a bit too slow, a bit too clogged up. The defenders will take that one. Spike doesn't even get close to going down there. And I mean, I guess after that initial, you're talking about getting information. Sure, Ferbsa went down quick, but knew exactly where everybody was at that point. Like, it had seen 2 or 3 players all pretty much stacked up outside the site. Pretty solid chance that was going to be exactly where the push was coming. And Northwood, even after losing Dip as well, able to recover pretty well.
And the one thing that I love from the side of Northwood is when they go for the retake, they do so decisively. There's no hesitation in getting back on site. They're not waiting. They're not loitering. The comms are made. They're saying, guys, I'm going through heaven. You go down through screens. We're going to go for the pinch. And you blink twice and they're already there on site, full control. And it works so well for them. They have an amazing shot as well. We talked about it kind of you and I off desk, but Northwood as a team, they individually shine as well. They have clean head fragging abilities, and it works well in their favor, of course. But now we can see minute 20, still ample time on the board as JMU just kind of poking around. Spike has dropped back, so we're not going to necessarily spell out the plan just yet for the attackers as they're looking for an opening selection. So yeah, nothing too crazy, but of course Northwood here does have the gun advantage, and James Madison going to be a little bit hesitant to stick their nose out a little too far.
No chance.
Yeah, this is a situation where, okay, let's see how Northwood kind of plays this in this situation. We're not going to necessarily show our cards because we really don't have many to show. Dip does find Rocco, so one by one, JMU is falling, and I don't think they've really been able to gather too much from this round. I mean, there's the ace coming out across the team overall, but JMU really barely got any traction at all. Really didn't get much momentum going, so not really too much to glean off from that round. It's now going to come down to this one, where Northwood's playing on the bonus, but JMU has the full rifle and armor buy. So now you're really going to be able to at least match a little bit, see how Northwood might be react to a full stack, or maybe these truer default scenarios here. And Northwood, yeah, like you said, they're playing so definitively. There is no hesitation, and that having that Reyna, you have the ability to get that information outside the Sova, and then you have the Jet to follow up on that. It's something Jamie really doesn't have here. Like, they have a lot more of a passive information gathering composition, and for Northwood playing on defense, they might be able to react to that a lot better.
Yeah, I'm with you on that note, and you can see just how that type of agent, comp is playing into JMU's style. You can see they're looking for info right off the beginning. They're not going out all aggressive. They're not rushing onto any of the given sites and trying to go down mid or something off ball like that. They're just poking, and this poking is good and bad in a way because Northwood is very, very mobile. You can see on the map they're constantly moving. You can see the float from the chamber, the float from the Sova. They're ready to make a shift towards any one of the two sites, and the 2-1-2, it's a simple setup, but it works well here. So with 55 on the clock, the decision making has to occur now for the side of JMU, and it does. The Viper wall goes across, and they're going to go ahead and try and siege onto site. Ali is pinned up top in container now, dropping towards safety. Maybe a snake bite to keep him busy, but the Oso textbook wall plant strat is going down yet again, Dak.
Yep. So the wall is not perfect, but it's good enough. Rocco finds Ferbsa, and now we have everyone getting back in a position here. The attacker's falling all the way back on site and just holding back over towards yellow. JMU gonna take this nice and easy. Benji gonna poke through that poison wall here. And Dip as well, waiting. The mid part of the map was completely open without optic being able to push through. And now the Cloudburst falls out. JMU getting pushed on, and they find the kills as Noiserap gets 3 in a row. And Dip is certainly going to take that hint and fall all the way back. They did pick off 1, and that's probably as much as they're going to get here. That's a nice play, and JMU will finally get on the board. It didn't take him nearly as long as it did the first map. Zubumafu will hit the ground, but otherwise JMU gets through, not entirely unscathed, but certainly not bleeding too heavily.
No, I'm with you on that, and I think it came down to one key note that you said mid, commentary there, Dak, is they get the kills, and I think that's what it really came down to. Noiseraf's 3-piece combination on that round is what solidified the deal. We know for a fact that Northwood, when given the chance, can absolutely dismantle the opposing team. Right, one-on-one, mano-y-mano fights don't work. Northwood will absolutely stomp you. So for JMU to kind of go back to picking a key battle and getting, of course, a reliance on Noiseraf to get the 3-piece worked out well. So 2-1 as we find some early comfort, thankfully, here on map number 2.
Wow.
Dip, though, feeling frosty coming out of tube onto Rocco and very quickly eliminating that rotational agent of chamber here. So with that opening pick, this is, again, the chance for James Madison to maybe respond back. They're going to go ahead and utilize that owl drone early, and the question is, do they collapse off of it? So far, I think yes, they have committed the wall as well, and already you can see just how quickly Northwood has rotated over.
And you mentioned that Aldrum being a bit early. It certainly was. They really didn't get to see really anybody except, I believe, just the Viper with that Aldrum. So it didn't give them as much information they would have liked. It's not going to change JMU's swagger, though. They're going to walk all the way in instead, regardless, and maybe paying the price for it as Ferbsa finds JSB. Their entries are down, and now just the Sage and the Sova. At this point, it doesn't matter what roles you have left here. It's going to come down to whether or not you can get these last kills. As we've been mentioning, Noiseraf, who's been popping off here with the Vandal pretty recently, is continuing to get some kills under their belts. It's a 4-on-2 situation, but this is now really a 5-on-2 because Northwood has time in their favor. They have 30 seconds left on the clock. The spike still has not gone down here, and there's a potential flank coming in from the chamber, who's now pushing in all the way through A site and now going in through spawn. So JMU really has to start moving.
I think potential is now confirmed because we have that chamber coming around the back end here. Mur in an uncomfortable position. Does get the one onto Ali, but 10 seconds in a dream here. Dak going to go for the spike plan in a moment of desperation. Dip is there, comes around. Mur gets the 1, 4 seconds now, but Benji is a little bit late to the party. Walking, it is plenty of time here and going to completely catch Mur off guard almost here. Bit of a dance and, oh boy, just Benji just doing Benji things, Dak, is what it comes down to. Clean connection, as there's very limited places where that sage could have gone. Really well done, and in the end, holding shift reigns supreme.
JMU though looking pretty solid on that round, I would say. Like they definitely had some good kills coming through, and thanks to Noiseroff. And they were, playing well in the scramble, right? Like you had the spike go down eventually, but it was really the smokes coming out, the wall that came down. You're like, all right, we're gonna try and maybe not necessarily, like you're saying, not take these one-on-one gunfights, but get residual damage in. Try to get some spray transfers around. Just hit whoever you can. Any moving target, put shots in. So that way, when those one-on-ones finally do happen, your targets are already tenderized. They've already taken some hits, and that helped JMU get onto the site. And thankfully, they had just enough time to push in from against the flank, but eventually, you got to win that last one-on-one, and Benji came out on top for Northwood.
With the aggressive post up towards Long B as well, anybody who chooses to cross that Benji tour de force is going to be met with a little bit of trouble. Meanwhile, it's a JMU attempt towards A this time, as they're conserving the Viper wall and not, selling any one of the two sites in the beginning here. But you can see just how fearless Dip is. Doesn't even care that Belt is exposed on the left. Is going to go aggressive, gets the tailwind out of the way, and is okay. Back to safety. Ferbs up playing way up top towards Belt area here. Just peeking. GSB prowling for a pick, but a lot of damage coming out early on, and that jet is now completely pigeonholed in a very unfortunate place. DiDoraco getting slapped by Ali, your prior Brimstone, now occupying that Viper role. GSP gets a heal, but at this point, it's yet again a rinse and repeat for Northwood, as they're going to go ahead one more time with the advantage.
Yeah, JMU not really having too much power to start this round to begin with, but now that they've lost their chamber, they will have to burn a heal to get their jet topped off to potentially go for another re-entry here. And there goes the poison wall, there goes the ice wall. They're putting everything down as they possibly can to make this a clean spike plant, and indeed it does go down. And now it's Drakius trying to flush out anyone holding on yellow. You can tell, I mean, JMU's been holding all the way towards the initial route onto the site, like almost every single time. That they hold all the way back beyond yellow and hide on the other side of the poison wall and wait for time to tick down. And the snake bite lands on the spike. Ali and GSB also getting shots in. The shock dart finds Drakius. Mercer also training, gets two. Going aggressive on the other side of yellow, but the Marshal from Mur comes out on top. They can't peek with very little HP though, and Northwood finds another round with 2 players alive.
I'm going to go ahead and give a quick little shout out here to the retake wall, that defensive Northwood wall that went down. That was an absolute mess to deal with. Like, they got on site. Nobody playing long or even on top of container could see the spike given the plant position. On top of that, the cloudburst went down, and I believe they got the half while sitting in the cloudburst. So just the conservation of that wall for the retake just nullified every attempt from JMU to solidify the attack. And that's just so well played. Like, this is again a segue from the previous map. Northwood knows how to retake, and they're saving the best part of the cake for last every single time. And with that note, they're going to continue ahead with this lead as well, Dak.
Yeah, JMU going to try to give an A side push here after B side has not been working out too well for them so far. And tour de force in the ops trading DiDoraco for 2 in a row, really quick, back to back. And that's going to open up the A side, but not entirely. They still don't have control of the back. Sova's still hanging out there, but the shock dart's trying to flush them out, and Drakius finally peeks right into the sights of that tour de force. DiDoraco finds their 3rd in a row. And now it is a 4-on-2 situation. Northwood, they're certainly going to take their time here, maybe not expecting much from this, but against this tour de force, they want to be careful. And unfortunately, not careful enough as Ali goes down for the count. 4 now for DiDoraco, looking for this ace. As we rip Benji coming all the way from back sight. Will they anticipate it? Yep, the jet sees them. It's the GSB who gets that first contact, and now swinging out. DiDoraco misses that shot, finds the ground, but then when they get their sights back in, it's an ace. DiDoraco makes it happen with the tour de force, makes it happen with the op, and JMU making it 2-4.
Shout out DiDoraco, absolutely opening up the good old backpack and hucks the whole team inside and goes for a solid 15k run all the way through to ace site. Really good job, really clean work. And on top of that, this is a huge change of pace. We're seeing some of the financial burdens shift over to the side of Northwood. The op looking good. The whole team is vandaled up, full armor. We're sporting a resurrection along with the Viper's Pit for that attacker. So in terms of getting on site, even playing a post plant with a res, like, they have a lot of cover that they can work with. We'll see how they can go ahead and capitalize. Meanwhile, Ali going to go ahead and dump one of my favorite Viper's Pits to lock off any kind of push opportunity towards A. We'll see how JMU goes for the adaptation, though, and if they want to really contest that, my spidey sense says no, but you got to be careful here. Dip is already on the flank to listen out and maybe get a pick or two on the way out.
Yeah, the the very least, has really solid intelligence that no one's transitioning over, but DiDorocco makes Dip pay the price for that information, takes them out with the op, and instead the spike has come all the way out. They're now backing off their Viper's Pit as much as they can, and I think that's anticipated by Northwood. They're already positioning back over towards B. They have the Chamber and the Reyna already floating back over there, and it looks like even on backside of A that the rest of those players might potentially put themselves in a position to quickly transition over to B if need be. Now it's mid control that someone might look for instead. Nope, they're going to scramble all the way back over towards that B site. They have a 4-on-2 situation. We can already tell Northwood, there's so much time being burned here. They're anticipating that push over towards B, and it's coming their way. Rip Benji, unfortunately, hits the floor too quick, and Ferbsa gets out of dodge with the kill. Unable to heal themselves, though, after that. DiDorocco with another one on the op. Now it's a 4-on-2 situation. JMU has control of the site. They back off. The wall goes down. Merg will get the res to make it a 5-on-2, and then JSB makes it a 5-on-1. And Northwood getting out transitioned here on the site. The swaps over towards B. Work out for JMU, and they have full control. They might be able to get away with this flawlessly, which would help keep them in this game, aside from the fact that winning this round would make it 4-3, which is looking really good for them so far, coming from Bind. But nope, Drakeus finds the Boomafu. That might be all they can get done. Yep, Noserov gets one more. He's not done flawlessly, but JMU nonetheless take another round and make it 4-3.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's not flawless, but I think it's darn good enough there, Dak.
Absolutely.
So with this, yeah, like look, they're completely different on this map, and I think, you know, to just go ahead and reiterate some of the points we mentioned earlier, this was a JMU pick, and I think we're seeing some of that that energy and vibe coming into it. So this is great for them. They have an initial footing, and they're continuing to build upon this strong foundation, setting themselves up for a successful second half. And what I love about that round too is not only did they, you know, take it off near flawlessly, but they didn't even have to use the ultimates that they've been collecting for the past couple rounds, and it's still available. They can go for that pit, they can go for the post plant Hunter's Fury from downtown. I don't expect the Blade Storm to come, maybe a conservation. Meanwhile, I lied, the post plant Hunter's Fury not necessarily happening here. Noizeraf going to use that for some reconnaissance and does get that Reyna down to low HP, but with a kill and a Devour, that's not too big of a deal.
Absolutely not. Shock Dart, ooh, gets a little too close for comfort for Rip Benji, but they will hold their ground and stay put. And things are completely slowed down here. This is something that JMU again has to be a little bit careful, because as time ticks down, Northwood historically has gone for these flanks through mid, or you've had the Jet push all the way through from B site, and it hasn't come through just yet, but you can tell both the Viper and the Jet are in position to do so. JMU looks like they might commit. They're going to try to see if they can get first contact here on the high ground before they go forward. Instead, the Viper is out transitioning back over towards A side, so it looks like they are going to stick with it. And Tabumafo find them going across Benji, though, still holding this position with Ali as well in the cross angles, cutting off any kind of push from JMU. There's some more kills. Mur hits the floor, or sorry, Mur gets one kill, kills Ali, who hits the floor. And Mur will find a second one at 30 HP, no health to work with here. No HP or heal to work with. Now it's a 2-on-2 with 19 seconds remaining. They're going to rush all the way over to B site and use this wall to keep things clean on mid. They're going to get that spike down just in time. And then Northwood has a little bit of a map to stretch over to see if they can take this retake.
It's going to be really interesting. Let's see how they play it out. You can see DiDorocco posted up here, watching intently right across towards bridge here. The whole crew going to go for the Snowman push, and DiDorocco in a great place to get some picks. Peeks for the one. Comes out for the two. Oh my goodness me. Good gracious DiDorocco vibing off that ace, and now vibing off that clean up to Headhunter transition, making it look like light work. I think the fingers and the mouse pad and keyboard are fully warmed up here for DiDorocco. Really well played.
Yeah, and it's honestly great to see how many teams feel like just so much more confident on Icebox. Like this map for the longest time, even like, you know, months after it had been implemented into the game, like still was a map that was constantly getting banned, and didn't seem like any team was really comfortable on it, right? Like you're still getting your ascents really often, and now Icebox has certainly come into its own. Certainly the latest changes have helped out, but it's good that these teams are looking a lot more even here. Maybe not this round, though, as DiDorocco has already had their presence felt. Finds one pick, or gets some other damage done. It has to be healed over here. JMU, now it's a 5-on-4 situation. They're going to, again, go for this push off of DiDorocco, who is, again, finding these shots with the operator. And they're going to move in. Ali, though, with the Marshall. And Drakeus for 2. Now evens things up as DiDorocco finds the wallbang kill for 3 in a row. But JMU now going to think twice about moving on to B here.
I'm okay with this. They got a minute plus on the clock, so they're not necessarily slicing thin air like the prior round when they chose to migrate towards that B site very late, but in the end it worked out. Instead, I love it. The fluidity. We're seeing some Northwood energy as they're just being that, ever-flowing team moving around now. Going to go ahead and drop a great wall to block off Heaven area and towards screens. Going to go for the plant as well. Going to give him some coverage and presence from Belt, but mostly towards Nest as the rotates are coming back around here for Drakius and supporting Viper, making it ever so quiet, just shift keying over. I like the aggressive post up as well from the DiDuraco monster, looking for that opening to get it down to that 2v1.
There's gonna be no push from upper back in heaven here. So they're walking right into the sights of DiDuraco, and Drakius feels it first, goes down. Ali will be able to get some high ground here, but at this point they need a lot more than that. And they're gonna go super aggressive with time ticking down on them, and it works out. Gets the kill on the ropes. Throwing down a big cloud, but Mur is not going to be dissuaded. Going to start blind firing here. Not going to be able to stick it in time. And Mur knows they can get aggressive as that spike will tick down. Won't be able to get away with it, but certainly takes away the round. And this is the first time now, the very first time here, Strive, that we're seeing JMU with the lead. It was a long time coming, but certainly worth the wait, as now they're looking a lot more competitive and feeling a lot more comfortable. 4 unanswered rounds for JMU against Northwood. And DiDuraco, 15-6, has been popping off, has another tour de force ready to go, so that's probably why they're buying the Bucky here. But yeah, this is a great look here for JMU.
Yeah, mega. I mean, style points all across the board, and I like that aggressive push on that attempt right across the rope to get that one pick. It wasn't good enough, and at this point, JMU looking for a second attempt at this B take. You can see the retake wall, as I like to call it, is kind of already in place, more or less, and let's see how they go ahead and maneuver with this situation. GSB poking around, and at this point, it feels kind of hesitant. I don't think James Madison is necessarily ready to commit. They drop the pit, though, and that's going to give them entry into sight, but I'm not a fan of this stack. They have basically committed entirely with no vision at all towards Snowman. It's Spray Fest with Drakius and the Odin. It goes burr, dips, up, goes bang, and at this point, I sound like an ebook. I'm just going to read the noises out to you guys as DiDuraco locked on to Snowman, holding the sliveriest of angles possible. But in a 2v5, I mean, what more can you do, Dak?
You had the soundboard going there, man. It was good. It was good. From e-boy to ebook. I'm with you there.
There you go.
DiDuraco now. Unfortunately, this is a pretty large wave to overcome. I mean, this is right now. Sure, you have the tour de force, but you're gonna have to be looking for a solid amount of picks here with 30 seconds left, and the angles are just not being given to them. Right, Northwood is not gonna peek. They know better than to do so. And we're going to see if that shark or that recon dart might be able to, any kind of dart might be able to flush him out. But the Odin is immediately silencing that utility. Noisarov now going to push up a little bit, hoping for something. It's DiDuraco who's the only one who's able to manage to get a kill here with the tour de force. Otherwise, Northwood looking very clean there. Not flawless, but as we said before, more than good enough. And they will get back on the board after 4 unanswered rounds. They do answer back to JMU with 2 left in the half. This is looking a lot more even. The buys not so much, but you can see now Northwood, the adaptations are now coming in. They have the Odin in play. They have Dip now on the op, and they've changed things around in terms of who's holding what here. See if they can try to get rid of DiDuraco, right? Like that has to be the game plan. Like nullify the effectiveness of DiDuraco as much as they can.
It's a good start, I'd say, and will definitely get you some footy. But I think the rest of JMU has also, been contributing reasonably well at that. And
absolutely.
It's got to start with DiDuraco, I think, or at least, somewhere mid-sentence, throw that agent into or that player into the mix. But this aggressive post up here from Ferbsa is good. Gets the dismiss, gonna go for a bit of a hop and skip jump away, right back to safety. I love that dismiss. Like that was the Reyna that I'm talking about. Very quickly can be that intel gatherer, get a pick, and it's kind of like a jet, but not really here. But Drakius poking towards middle, waiting for some sort of presence and maybe action towards tube. With the deficit, though, JMU does have a Blade Storm available, but again, they're thin, and this is where they gotta go back to their, dig very, very deep and go back to the roots and pick a site and go for it. And so far, looks like they're gonna pick the letter B, albeit Ali says not so much. The letter A is where you probably should have gone, as Benji cleans up shop and wipes it up. And man, this is just Northwood playstyle. You touched on the word. I think you used the word wave in one of your lines earlier. And I think to summarize Northwood, they're like a wave. But when it starts to really come at you, it's more like a tsunami. They're absolutely unstoppable in numbers, and they show themselves time in, time out. Now, talking about the comparison to the previous round, I mean, Dak, this is such a close game. It's such a good change of pace.
Hey, we love to see it. Yeah, you don't want to get caught in the undertow of Northwood, right? Because they kind of make you feel
Definitely.
comfortable onto the site, and then all of a sudden someone peeks out and get, the spray transfer's crazy, and they get 3 in a row, and your push is completely shut down. But it looked like JMU was really kind of disheveled there by the initial pick. They didn't have the Jet, but they had Jet at home. They had Reyna. They had Jet at home. And GSB now going to avoid those shock darts here. And it looks like JMU is going to again go for this A-side push. Northwood potentially setting themselves up for the flank, or at least mid-control. They haven't completely committed to it. But I love that. Like, they don't need all those players just stacked on A for the response. Why? Because they have dip on the op. And that's making JMU, again, think twice about this. And if they need to get aggressive, well, Ferbs is right there to get just as aggressive with them. So this is a really solid. Northwood has that the defense of the Jet and the Ferbsa holding, the Reyna Ferbsa holding up so aggressively here has completely dissuaded JMU from even thinking about pushing on A site now.
Yeah, I'm kind of grateful they didn't go for the Hail Mary push, knowing that Empress was, could have been around the band. Instead, they're playing the patience game, making a bit of an adaptation and saying A's kind of low key too obvious. We already dropped the wall here. We're gonna sell this way too hard. Instead, migrating towards mid. Wallace this time here, coming around. Ali, oh my goodness me, 1 or 2 seconds sooner, and that peak would have been so good.
30 seconds
Migrating around the bend. Drakius about to go for the Mofest, not scoped in, going for the 1 and the 2, and they absolutely lined up. But so much for hitting a home run as Benji does the better of that one with the 1 and 2. GSP finally equalizes. Dip playing the Cloudburst game with the shorty, but 15 seconds here in JMU in a bit of disparity, trying to run over as fast as they can to the opposing site. And unfortunately for GSP, can't keep up with the rest of the marathon runners. Now, Mur is going to run over through with the spike. Might get the plant? No, not so much. Ali's just one good patient beaver gets the 1 and done onto Mur. And with that, we end off 7-5.
Switching sides.
Ali has been looking just incredible right now these past few rounds for sure. He's been
Absolutely
the Vandal diff. And yeah, 7-5 scoreline here. Ali and Rip Benji now in double digits for their kills. Didorako still sitting up there 16-9. JMU, they've dropped 3 rounds in the last half, but the beginning and middle of that half was looking really solid for JMU. They were able to overcome like initial picks and keep themselves together, but they looked really good in this scramble, especially on B sites when there's so much utility going down. The walls are going down, the snake bites. You have ops firing off at tour de forces left and right. JMU was really looking good in those crazy moments and able to find, like you were pointing out, like not forcing fair one-on-ones, but trying to get like scrappy kills, garbage goals, if you will, and take unfair fights. And Northwood now overcoming it just a little bit with those initial picks that we saw from the Reyna and the Jet. So we'll see now things change up with Northwood on attack, which, as we know from Bind, they were extremely strong on their attack side. It was 11-1 in that first half. Now in this pistol round, they're also looking very clean.
I mean, look at the straight up, like, Z factor, not even X factor strat. These guys said, we're going to go for the fast dash, pinch through middle and B long. And look how they were able to pinch off that yellow container. It was almost effortless. And Northwood now in about, 14 seconds flat, have site control, are wiping up shop now. It's just down to Pearl GSP, but Ferbsa has no chill at all, getting aggressive onto Snowman, despite being 15 hit points, contested earlier and got this final pick. So this is it, man. That Tsunami, I think, is more or less in full effect, if not brewing to its full state. And 8-5 now, they're going to be the holders of the bigger weapons, specters, and everything else in between to get off here. JMU, we've seen the light, but this is, I think, where Northwood does best. I think they excel as an attacking team. We saw it in the previous map, and I kind of get this fuzzy feeling inside for this one too, Dak.
Absolutely. Especially, which helps on Icebox. It's pretty cold out here, but I'm glad that the hands are keeping warm as well. We have to keep an eye on Ferbsa here because they have, despite the little bit of a bonus, they now have put themselves on the Vandal. So they're making sure that they win this round off of that against all pistols from JMU. So this would be a pretty big loss if JMU start to drop bodies, but Rip Benji will help things out with 2 kills. The Spectre now, Mur and Noizeraf both going down, and GSB with the Marshall. Not in the best position for angles to actually get kills with it. With an off angle there. And yeah, we'll get caught out, found out. Didorako gets 1. Rip Benji for 4 in a row. The Spectre starts to spray and it finds 4. JMU going down, and now Northwood starting to stack up this lead a little bit here. It really wasn't the Vandal that was a big difference there. It was just that aggressive play with those Spectres and finding the Marshal and outing it when they needed to. Now JMU putting some rifles in the hands of their agents, looking to get themselves back into this, as Northwood has 5 unanswered rounds coming from the first half and now into the second.
I mean, Dak, if you're not strapped in, buckled up, and bracing, it's time now, man, because we're at that point, that tipping point where the gun round has come. Northwood's in a position to get us that double-digit 10th round if they so are able to do, and going for that round 1 pistol strat yet again. Dip is going to commit to the dash above 2, but DiDoraco says, not so much. No, I don't fall for the same game twice. Mur says, yeah, I'm on the same page as you, and really quickly, we blink twice, and we're back in the JMU driving seat. They are driving this Formula 1 car full tilt onto round number 15, and it's DiDoraco on the board for the second. Very quickly, Northwood dismantled down to just 2 members.
Ooh, Ferbsa though, at least keeping things, you know, getting something done, which certainly at this point where JMU is buying to keep themselves in the game at some point, like any economic damage you can do, even if you're not going to win the round, is certainly welcome. Northwood still has to get this spike down. Looks like Ferbsa will commit the Empress, and so far paying off, finds a Boomafu. That was that first contact there. So now JMU has to kind of decide, all right, do we commit to pushing on towards B, where it's likely going to be the spike plant, or do they anticipate the transition and rotate over towards A, which they have the jet waiting for? But it looks like it will come down to B. And if they can get Ferbsa into backside where the Sage is looking, and that's really going to open things up for them. That's, yeah, there it is. They find Mur, and now they have full reign over this. They don't even really have to get the spike down, because now JMU doesn't know where they're going to push from. Spike will eventually go down, and it is. But now you're going to have 2 different one-on-ones here that might be taken. Northwood is clumped up next to each other, but JMU a bit split up just a little bit when they re-enter. We'll see if they can get the double peek in. It looks like they will situate themselves for that double peek. And Ferbsa hanging around next to their Viper. They don't want to be they want to be conjoined at the hip. And unfortunately, Ferbsa gets caught out. Ali will pick up the Vandal. Gets 1, but Noiserov peeks just in time. And that'll be enough to get that spike defused.
I mean, I don't want to say call it luck, but the retake position that JMU took, first of all, I mean, thank God there wasn't 15 people watching at them, but to echo some of the highlights of that round, despite the loss, Northwood, like you said, they really were conjoined by the hip, and they kind of hunted as a pack. I mean, a pack being 2 wolves in this case, but they stuck together. They did exactly what you and I hoped, which was clear out back Snowman. That's step 1. Going for a plant without any sight control, knowing there's 3 people alive, would have spelled complete disaster. Yep. It just seemed like that rotation back from the opposing end is what really solidified the deal. So they hold on steady. Again, the flurry of 5, including the prior round, now full stop by JMU, and they're setting back up one more attempt for this A. Dip going to go up top for a quick peek and make sure no one's pushing or doing any kind of funny business towards Nest, and it's none of that here as JMU's playing the passive role towards A and B as well.
JMU does stack 3 on the A, well, not stack, but has at least 3 position here for the 3-2 split, and luckily for them, that's enough players to hold this here, but maybe not enough. As Dip catches GSB off guard and then getting aggressive, dropping in on Mur with 70 HP, can go for more. And Zabumafu knows they're waiting around that corner, but they have to worry about another player there. It's Ali, who instead makes that contact. Now it's where Benji gets another one, and it's just Noiseraf by themselves, hunting, but not able to overcome. A flawless round here for Northwood. And that was, you know, again, JMU, they weren't necessarily out of position with that one. They had the 3-2 split, but when you have your jet Dip running in, getting 2 really quick kills, JMU really wasn't able to react in time to that. And once you lose those 2 bodies in the site, you have to wait for your other players to rotate over. And by then, Northwood had swarmed onto the site and taken all the important angles.
Yeah, Dip like that that one friend or person, you kind of take him to this one place, you drop him and say, you do your own thing, right? Like, you can fend for yourself, and Dip is that agent. As a jet, has been able to fend for himself incredibly well, is able to work aside and get opening picks without any real support or backup, and that in itself is fantastic. Benji now is going to offer much of that same kind of tempo. Mur with a very quick one shot there. Dip on top of container, does hear some activity. GSP is just dancing around this, a bit of a salsa and waltz around container, but it's not before Dip and Ferbsa come around the back end to wipe up shop and take it to a 3v2. JMU did a great job at holding off this push, but now with the spike planted and a very awkward pinch coming out here, we got to see DiDoraco really shine.
Absolutely. Noiserov, meanwhile, finds Dip. Now it's a 2-on-2 until DiDoraco makes it a 2-on-1. Drake is not able to overcome that tour de force from Didorako, and that'll be another round here for JMU. Again, in a scramble. JMU looking really solid here. Getting rid of the most important players. Ali was able to stick around pretty quickly into that round, or pretty long into that round, but it was Didorako who, once again, making their presence felt known. They've been absolutely immaculate on this tour de force, and an awkward pinch, as you said, but Northwood kind of funneling all their players towards Didorako without much utility to play against it, and so they'll take that to the bank all day.
Yeah, for sure, man. Cash it in and reap the rewards. And maybe I'll kind of retract some of my point and throw myself in the middle. And necessarily may not have been awkward, but I think that the difference in the split, knowing that the spike was going down and they'd be playing a diversified position, regardless. I mean, it's not a Northwood thing to be playing a post plant like that. Just knowing that they would want to spread out and get opportunity, I think was good that what Didorako did. But now in his position, Mur giving us some of that dip energy, going for an aggressive push right down tube. And with that, my goodness me, you blink twice, Zabumafu and Didorako one apiece again. JMU spicing it up, turning up that tempo. 28 notches here, minute 20 on the clock. You can see Ali does have Silva to back up, but on the opposing end of the spectrum, JMU has got tons of map control to spare here, Dak.
Just a great read overall from JMU, and Northwood's playing these defaults, knowing it's how important it is to really maintain that mid map control and not give Northwood that easy funnel access into B site if they can help it. Didorako has been gatekeeper in the middle of the site for a good while here on Icebox, and this has completely slowed everything to a crawl now for Northwood, who are not trying to take any chances. At the very least, they want to get out with their rifles intact. And even JMU is kind of almost feeling the same way too. They don't want to be losing anything economically here, even if they have the round in the bag. So they're going to take this nice and slow. It looks like Northwood is going to maybe mosey on towards B, and JMU certainly looking around to see if anyone decides to counter rotate back over towards A, which is now completely open, but I don't think Northwood entirely knows that at this point. So Ali's going to make their way over towards yellow. It looks like they will commit. They're going to slowly do so and see if they can take some one-on-ones to even things out. But with 13 seconds left on the clock, they have to make a decision.
10 seconds left.
Yeah, I mean, Chief, one-on-ones would be great, but that's 5 of them you got to take, and that's a mission. So 5 one-on-ones spells trouble as JMU completely locked down that site. Do not allow entry for even the plan, and these guys now brought it to just a mere 2-round deficit. Looking mighty spicy, and dude, 4 ultimates as well in the back pockets. Didorako has gone back to that comforting operator purchase as well. 22 kills, 13 deaths. Just looking frosty as can be. They're going to lean heavily on this utility, I hope, this round, and given the light buy coming out from the side of Northwood, maybe they don't have to invest all of it. Some of it would be great just to solidify that round and to bring us to that 9th, but I'm loving what I'm seeing here. JMU, being their map pick, are just holding on so much better than what we saw in the previous matchup, Dak.
Yep, and like you said earlier, Didorako is certainly getting the kills, but it's a team effort, right? Like, they're the ones that are getting them off the angle, and Didorako is picking them off as they start to run. JSB, though, off that dash, it goes down. There's 2 in a row. Didorako also gets on the board there, looking for a second one, but GSB steals it away from them. And now it's Rip Benji with a hope and a dream, and not much else, as JMU has the entire squad still up, and the whole squad's not laughing. Maybe they are. Maybe laughing back to the bank as they have a lot to work with going to this next round. Where Benji does have the tour de force to work with a minute on the clock. Yeah, we're talking about 5 one-on-ones in a row here. I don't know if that might happen on this round, just like it did in the last one. But now it's Northwood on the other side of the coin here. Rip Benji going to be pushing up, and they have the Viper waiting on the other side. There's also the Jet still on lingering in back sight, and then of course you have mid completely held here by JMU. So Rip Benji does not have too many options to work with.
Yeah, this all be looking low-key like my grade 8 volcano science project right now towards this middle area, dancing around the top. You can see Benji just looking around, and this is kind of unfortunate. Now down to 1 HP and 1 armor. Gonna try and maybe get a pick at best, and Zabumafu is on the opposing end, just having a cup of hot cocoa, hanging out for the most part. 16 seconds. Benji, a pick or 2. I'll take the bait if you can get that far, but gonna be a hot mission. Ooh. Hello, gets the 1. GSB caught off guard and trying to get more. Rip Benji. Goodness me. The tour de force monster. Now know there's an entire party behind waiting for the peak, but 6 seconds considering the situation. What? Can someone permanently paste a tour de force to rip Benji's arms? And I think we'd have a whole complete different game, just style points, and does get a lot of economy off. But Dak, it's getting closer and closer. It's not enough to win the round though.
Definitely not, but Murr's gonna need a replacement pelvis after that one. That was that was a hit replacement if I've ever seen one with that last shot there on the tour de force.
Yep.
And that is now 3 rounds here in a row for JMU, as they are keeping things as close as they really can. This is the side. Yeah, I mean, it helps that this is looking good for them considering it's their map pick, and you can see why. This is absolutely a more practical, or at least a a stronger look for them. Here though, there goes that eye, pops out, and there's the Hunter's Fury to try and slice and dice and get that bull stirred just a little bit. But it doesn't find pay dirt. I don't even think it hit anybody. Maybe it might have taken a little bit of damage off of Engie potentially, but otherwise I don't think it tickled anybody at all. Zabumafu though is pretty low at 10 HP. Meanwhile, Drakey has pushed GSP down to 0. Zabumafu though, despite that, finds Ferpsa. Noiser after 2 in a row. Zabumafu for 2 in a row. Learn your letters there. And Dip will fall back, and JMU will likely, if not especially and eventually and inevitably, will make this a 10-10 scoreline here, Strive. This is a completely different map here in Icebox, and now JMU is like, we've made it this far. We can't go out like this. At the very least, we're making this a map 3 potentially. Of course, Northwood is not out of it, but JMU looking extremely strong off of the backs of some really stellar plays here.
Yeah, this is not the Northwood that I saw in the pistol round of this half. Like when they had that crazy pinch going right down through middle and trying to push through. Oh, Dip. Okay, gets the one, transitioning back to the Phantom of choice, but Merc comes from the back end. Yeah, to continue my point, that first round pistol strat going mid for that quick pinch onto container, that was great. Like that was beautiful, well executed, and it was different. At this point, I felt like Northwood kind of was just brute forcing that push, like sending 5 right on through and trying to get the picks. You saw Drakeus kind of shine for the initial pick, but from there was a cascading effect. JMU had rotated. They had tons of people to spare, and they were not even interested in playing the retake strat. They went full sight hold and got the kills. It feels like they've finally warmed up their crosshairs, and they're the ones delivering kind of the blows early on. And now we've got to a 10-10. It's close as can be, and at this point, let's just play it out and see how Northwood can retaliate.
And Northwood is going to do a bit of a 3-2 default here, but they are going to start to mosey their way up onto A. They haven't put anyone towards mid, so not the truest of defaults here, but nonetheless, going to try to gather a little bit of information, see who's hanging out here on A site. They have the Reyna to do so, and the Viper Alley backing them up. Meanwhile, anyone positioned towards B is now starting to rotate back over towards A, but Dip catching GSB just as they were about to shoot Ferpsa in the back of the head. There goes the Viper's pit. Meanwhile, Zabumafu takes out Benji. Dip responding again with a 2nd kill in a row.
Ooh.
Standing ahead.
Like that's going to be a spike going down, a 4-on-3 for Northwood.
Noise Raf and Co coming out from above here at Ferpsa, watching the drop this here. An absolute stomp fest on the opposing end of this Viper's pit. Has 2 opportunities for a Devour or Dismiss, depending on how things go. James Madison here looking for a chance at the retake. So far looking good. This Viper's pit going to be the deciding factor. Ali just absolutely transitions that mouse nicely to Noise Raf now. Coming on the back end. Tough situation for D. Duraco. Can't deal with the green, and I think the green and for the go for Northwood on that 11th round is very much defined. Looking strong and keeping it tight. Nothing too crazy otherwise though, Dak. I mean, we're still fighting it out pretty even across the board. Lots of money to spare on mostly both ends of the spectrum. It's just a second chance for JMU to get back on the board, and they're doing it. They're in a great position. Don't get me wrong. Compared to the previous map, I keep going back to that, but I'm seeing a whole different team and energy. I think they can hold on steady, and we're just so close here to potentially even overtime, depending on how it goes.
That was just a scary round, right? Because you're up against the Viper's pit, so you're obviously you're kind of committing when you're going into the smoke there, but also you don't want to re-exit from that because you're going to get opt potentially, and you have Drip kind of hunting around. So it's hard to deal with, especially when you've lost your entries too, or your counter entries, I would say, on defense. But Northwood on their entry going to take things nice and slow again, doing that 3-2 split here, but not committing as much as a group towards A, and you can see all the way in the back both the chamber waiting. Meanwhile, Dita Rocco has B, and doesn't get that calf. Jet will poke out just enough to draw out some utility, but not die to any kind of shots there from DiDoRocco's. I bite at the skin of their teeth there too, because that could have easily been death there from DiDoRocco onto that jet. But nonetheless, Dip does get out just in time and things slow down. But once again, the coalescence over towards A. Looks like Northwood's going to make a move here. They got a little bit of information from pushing on to B, and now they're going to apply it.
They apply a bit of a headshot as well for the side of the defense here. Jamie gets the one, but Drakius now feeling mighty fresh gets the one onto GSP and Noiseraf. With that opportunity, they have a great post plant too here. Dak, that Huntress Fury is very much present. DiDoRocco, will we get the exit onto Ali on the way out? Nope. Angle's too tight here. NG, yeah, the better shot. Much swifter than DiDoRocco having to deal with that Vandal peak. And now Zabumafo on the back end of it gets trademarked and absolutely clapped, and with the res as well. Now Northwood in a great spot, still holding very deep for that Huntress Fury as it's down to one lonesome Myrrh on the retake.
One lonesome Myrrh. That's an episode of Practical Jokers, I would say. Potentially.
Except the difference is this isn't a joke.
Yeah,
we're in the complete opposite end of the spectrum. It's a 3 versus 1, and it's down to the wire. We have everything to lose here for the side of JMU. Spike's gonna go boom. Do we get Myrrh to save? Oh my goodness me.
Oh.
Sacrificial behavior. All's good in the hood, but the only thing that JMU minus that is sacrifice is a near miss in that round, and this could be the solidifying round for Northwood too. They're on that 12th, and they are still holding on to, I think, one of the X factors in terms of ultimates, that Huntress Fury, which, again, on a post plant could completely bamboozle James Madison if they don't play it well.
Absolutely. Northwood looking at a potential 2-0 series here, but JMU did not make it easy here on Icebox. Absolutely not, by no stretch of the imagination. Now it all comes down to this, and Dip, I think, wants to end things right now. They have that Blade Storm pop out. They did get marked there a little bit, so you could see that actually put a little bit of hesitation on them. They don't want to commit and lose that Blade Storm too early, but Myrrh in Tube, right outside of it in Kitchen, nonetheless, gets 2 and starts to eat him up, cooking for 2 kills. And now Northwood gonna see if they can make something happen with the leftovers of this round here. Will they commit over to B and get the spike down? At this point, it looks like it might be of a wash. Zabumafu finds Ali, and Dip has not been able to do anything with this Blade Storm. The walls have fallen around them, and now they've just been left with the doorway. And it looks like that door might get shut. Is JMU looking to take their 11th round?
I mean, Chief, if it ain't gonna be shut, there's 5 dudes blocking the way. Like, that's it's just a caboose of people just jamming through this little funnel here. Drakius, oh boy, gets pinged out in the corner, and a second just for good measure here, and we'll see if he can make it out unscathed. The recon dart, shock dart comes in in close proximity, goes for the swing, and gets DiDoRocco'd for Dip, and Noiseraf onto Drakius. So 12-11 now at the scoreline. I want to go ahead and comment on one thing really quickly, and I noticed it on GSP, because whenever I feel like we hop over to that first-person view of GSP, I get that flavor. James Madison is making great decisions, and GSP is a highlight agent for that. Is getting information, and although might be set up to get a pick or could go for the Hail Mary play, chooses not to do that. Instead, backing away, utilizes the intel, and is not putting himself in a place where he cannot be 100% certain to capitalize. And that, I think, speaks volumes for the entire James Madison team, is that they're very, very concentrated and focused on the target, which is getting 100% secure picks. They don't want to be exposed and left out to dry, or hung out to dry, to say the least. And you look at it now with just a 1-round deficit, it's as close as it can be, and overtime is totally viable. It all hinges on this, Dak.
And JMU maybe gambling a bit wrong there. They had a lot of players stack up towards A, and Northwood picking the right side goes over towards B with a huge player advantage, able to get that spike down very quickly. And Benji pops out the tour de force, taking a little bit of damage, has no armor, but that's not going to stop him from peeking. And of course, that leads to a kill from on Myrrh onto GSB. JMU starting to get whittled down one by one, but DiDoRocco with a big kill there. Drakey is now trying to shut things down with that Hunter's Fury. Lead tagged 1, and that might be it done. Oh, Ferbsa for 2. Zabumafu goes in, takes them out. It was DiDoRocco who was trying to sneak a ninja defuse there, but can't come out. I don't even think got the half defuse. And now it's Zabumafu by themselves. Time is ticking away. They have to commit, and that is not enough. Ali will take them out just in time, and Northwood takes it 13-11 in the series 2-0.
I mean, Dak, what a game and what a series. For it to come down to this position and end off the way that it did absolutely shredded my heart into 100 pieces. Like, I saw a whole new team and I see why Icebox was their selection. They were so strong. We talked about some of the high notes, right? The decision making, the strengths they had as a team, the synergy, but it felt like, it shredded slowly. It wasn't a decisive shred, which is just, it burned me through the inside. I will say on the opposing end of the spectrum, though, a huge congratulations to Northwood. I mean, they played a map one darn near flawlessly, and they really held on super tight through the tsunami waves that JMU was delivering to them. It was just so good.
Yeah, I would Bind and Iceberg Box were night and day. You could tell that JMU was a lot more prepared for Icebox. But at the end of the day, Northwood, a lot of it came down to winning those aim battles, right? A lot of it's like they're getting the kills when they needed it to. You see, though, JMU was really keeping it close. They're able to force the issue on a lot of
Absolutely.
these sites. They're able to make them reconsider, and you could even see Northwood start to slow things down a little bit over time. Like, all right, we have to kind of respect JMU a little bit more. But I mean, dip on that jet. Crazy going off. DiDoraco, of course, on the other side, making huge plays. And those hero plays kind of kept both teams in it. But as we discussed, it was a team effort on both sides, right? Like, you're getting really good information from Ferbza, who commits, gets intel, maybe even goes down for the count, but that intel was huge in repositioning their defense. Or you have DiDoraco, who's getting kills, but that's because they're getting funneled towards those angles that he's holding. So certainly a team effort. And of course, they're getting this far. It has to be.
Yeah, indeed. I want to take a quick look at the bracket as well and kind of bring everybody up to speed as to what's coming and what we've gone through so far. This overall situation now has got us to this point where we saw Kennesaw take it against Houston, and like we saw now with Dak and I, Northwood up against James Madison. So that's going to set us up nicely for tomorrow's festivities that are going to be starting off at 3 p.m. Eastern. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of add a couple more notes on top of this mix as well. Part of me is also missing Haven. I was kind of looking forward to that, Dak. I'm not going to sit here and say I don't want a map 3. That's completely wrong. It's for what we saw on Icebox, had we gone to that win, I think the map 3 would have been the nail biter, truly and honestly. But if we talk about some more of the high notes as well, you talk about the compositions. Can we talk about comps for a sec? Map 1, I felt like on Bind that JMU got out comped straight up. Like they're the shots aside and the overall play style that Northwood brought to that first map is one piece of the puzzle. But I think they were not in a position to even hold it off from a utility perspective. They were getting walked on in every shape and form. But then you come into the icebox front, and very quickly that changed. And this is where I think that for the side of James Madison, they shone superbly. They hinge heavily on DiDoraco, which in a way is a good and a bad thing, but that much weight on one person's shoulders is very difficult to hold up. So yeah, I don't know. Part of me is just kind of going on about it because I'm hurting inside a little bit more than I probably wanted to. So before we go any further, I want to take this opportunity to welcome Dracius to the mix. We're going to be having an interview and see what's cooking and looking good. Dracius, welcome to the party, and how are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing good. Welcome. I have a couple questions for you, specifically talking about the map 1 and map number 2. The first thing I want to ask is, what was the solidifying factor? I don't know if you've had a chance to kind of listen to the post analyst desk that we brought forward and had a chance to kind of absorb it, but what do you think that it was an agent composition on map 1? Was it a specific agent or role that kind of worked really well for you guys on Bind? What was the solidifying factor that allowed you guys to so definitely take that map 1 home?
I think it's just our general like play style. We played the comp we're used to on that map, and we played the comp we're used to on Icebox as well. But I think the big difference was on map 2, their chamber player kind of came alive and he kind of took over the game, and
Yeah.
that made it a lot more difficult for us.
Yeah, and how do you deal with that, on Icebox, which was, not only your opponent's pick, but then you had the chamber popping off. What adaptations were you making as a team to deal with that new X factor?
The way we saw it was they didn't really seem to be doing anything incredibly special with their plays. It's just the rounds that they had, that chamber get a lot of picks, went their way. So we didn't change anything about our game plan throughout the thing. We slowed down a little bit, but on Icebox, we just want to make sure that we're taking our time and clearing those angles once they had the op up. But after that, nothing else. We just kept playing our own game.
Awesome. And I think you touched on a key point for me, which we definitely noticed, was really how you guys took that tempo down a notch, not going full aggressive, not doing anything haphazardly. And you guys were very methodical. And I want to maybe ask a follow-up question as well is, um, map 1 is one thing, right? That was a bit more of a landslide of a map, and I don't want to necessarily touch on it. But map number 2, at what point did you guys either A, feel like you were coming back and had kind of resolved your troubles, or at what point did you feel the polar opposite, like things were slipping? And what was the immediate change minus tempo, if anything at all, that you guys had to do to get your footing back into it and really dig into the ground?
Mm, yeah, like I said, we noticed that their chamber player was doing a really good job of finding them openings and getting multi-frags. So I think it was probably like 7 or 8 rounds in. We just talked about slowing down a little bit, but outside of that, we really just played our own game the whole time and didn't really worry about what they were doing.
Well, you certainly have the game
Awesome.
played in finals against Kennesaw. Any takeaways from this series that you're going to look to apply? Anything you're looking forward to face off in that final? You're looking forward to that matchup, I'm sure. But what are you going to be taking away from this series to apply in the grand finals?
Just making sure we stay focused throughout the full series. It can be easy when you're up a large score line to start slipping and you lose your focus on the game, think it's going to be easy for the rest of the thing. But that's it. Outside of that, we'll just play how we do, and I'm sure we'll take it.
I'm rooting for you guys. You had an amazing showing on map 1, and map number 2 was a nail biter. We were low key, at the edge of our seat for map 3, but best of luck to you guys. Before we send you off, are there any special shout outs you want to pass off to the viewers or anyone that's joining in?
Yeah, our director of esports at our school, Coach E or Evolve on Twitter and Discord, is an incredible guy, and he does so much for us that people don't get to see. So I just wanted to thank him for that.
Awesome. That's super. And Drakius, with that, thank you so much for joining us. We wish you the best, and looking forward to seeing the matchup that's going to start off tomorrow. So congrats.
Thanks.
Awesome. So cutting back here, Dak, before we sign off for the evening, I want to again take this time to thank all of our viewers that joined us today, and to all of our sponsors for keeping everything real as possible. I kind of said it before, but again, guys, bookmark it, throw it in your calendar, set up a notification, whatever it is. Tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, we're going to meet you back here yet again for the continuation of today's festivities. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Dak, closing comments or thoughts before we send everybody off?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it, of course. You could see, like, Drakeus, like, they're just going to play their game, right? Like, they're just looking forward to doing what's already working and keep that going and not changing up too much. So when you have teams like that are confident, they know what game they have to play and they're going to play it, I think it's going to make for an awesome finale. We have the third place match kicking off beforehand. Of course, Vincent and Los going to be on for that. It'll be awesome to see them there. And then, yeah, we'll be back for that finals matchup against these two teams, Kennesaw and Northwood, who have proven that they've made it this far. They've played immaculately, both 2-0ing their opponents in semifinals. So the cream of the crop is rise to the top. We'll see who's going to take it. I can't wait.
Neither. On that note, guys, take care. Have a fantastic rest of your evening, and we'll catch you back here tomorrow. Ciao.